Oh, alrighty. Shall we?
Yes.
Sweet. Screenagers. We're back yet again. We're here. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Canon. As always, your favorite movie podcast. Still, we're the only movie podcast providing you with a watch list of the most essential movies ever made. My name is Raf, and we've got another amazing essential movie lined up for you guys today. For this week, we're going to be talking all about Eve, and to talk about it, we're bringing in two of our ScreenAge Wasteland heavy hitters. You know them, you love them. We've got Thomas, and we've got Romona. How's it going? This is the first time that we're getting this particular crew together.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
exciting. Got a
really
little
cool.
something new going on. Yeah.
How is everyone?
Tired. Well, it was a long movie.
A long movie, but a great movie.
It was, yeah. I didn't feel the length. Let's just say that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm good. Just had a long weekend, so feeling fresh and ready for the new week ish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Eh,
This is nice. So we're recording this on a Sunday afternoon, evening for Thomas.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. Morning, approaching afternoon
Noonish.
for myself and Romona. But yeah, on the tail end of it sounds like everyone here has had a long weekend. But
Yeah.
what better way to wrap it up than with, chatting about an all-time movie?
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Let's do it. I think we can really just like jump into this one. There's going to be a lot to get to.
Yeah.
For me, this was my first time watching the movie. And if there's anyone out there who is familiar or has seen my Letterboxd, maybe you guys saw my review that this one is for all the divas, and I throw myself into that category.
Oh, yeah.
As a diva, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know that would be the first word that would come to my mind if someone said describe Raph in a single word. I don't think that I would ever come up with diva, but I see it now. Yeah, okay. It works.
We're all divas in one way or another.
This is true. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, we all have elements of it.
Yes.
All about Eve, one for the divas. That's going to be the like general framework for talking about this movie that I want us to keep in mind throughout the course of this conversation.
Yes.
It's always going to come back to that. So 1950 film starring the absolutely delightful Bette Davis and Anne Baxter, written and directed by Joseph Mankiewicz, I believe is his first name.
Yeah.
I just mentioned that this was my first time seeing this movie. Romona, I think it was also your first time.
Yep. Yeah.
What was your initial response, reaction to this movie? What were your big takeaways watching this?
Oh, I loved it. This was actually my first Bette Davis movie too. I haven't seen her in anything. I've just recently, well, I don't say recently, over the last couple of years, got into watching a lot of the classics, black and white classics, just, mostly Cary Grant, rom-coms from back in the day, Katharine Hepburn, all that. But no, this was my first Bette Davis movie, and I didn't know anything about what this movie was about. And I knew this was one of Marilyn Monroe's very first movies, I think. Very small part, but she's just freaking radiant. I don't know. There's something about her that just takes you by. I don't know. She was just beautiful. But no,
for sure.
Yeah. I loved it. I was actually surprised by how much I loved it. Just the writing was fantastic. The dialogue, there's something about the dialogue from these classic movies that is just never replicated in anything modern anymore. I don't know what it is, but the dialogue back then was just snappy, on point, witty. Bette Davis was phenomenal. And I know the movie's called All About Eve. And Anne Baxter's also, her performance is a lot more subtle. But Bette Davis clearly had the meatier, flashier role, I think. And I kind of actually towards the end when it's Eve and Addison, was like, bring back Margot. I was like, where's Margot? I want to see more of her. Yeah. So no, I ended it thinking, because when you see a movie, you always have those first impressions, just that first gut feeling of what you felt about the movie. And if you're on Letterboxd, you're always like, what am I going to rate this on Letterboxd? Almost right away. And I think I went in and I did it like a 4.5 star. And I was like, this is a 4.5 clearly. And then I slept on it. And I woke up this morning. I was like, that's a 5-star movie. Like, what was I thinking? Like docking it a half star for whatever reason. I don't even know why I did now. But no, it was. I'm actually kind of upset with myself that I take so long to see these movies, like these AFI top 100s. These, Best Picture. I don't know what my problem
These
is, but
Canon essential movies.
Canon essential movie. If it weren't
Yeah.
for the Canon, I don't know that would watch it. So I'm very grateful to this podcast for making me watch this movie. It was great. I loved it. It's fantastic.
Thank you to the Canon for
Yes.
for keeping us honest about checking out the all-time greats.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
most essential movies of all time. Happy to be
Agreed.
doing it. So Thomas, you had seen this before.
Yeah,
And
I did.
how many times have you seen this?
I think this was my 4th time. Yeah, somewhere around there. But like, I can still remember that initial feeling, seeing it a couple of years ago, where I think I paused like midway through the first scene, or like just towards the end of the first scene. I was like, hold up. Like, this is not what you would expect from a film that was made in 1950. And like, no shade to like older films. I know that sometimes we think like, what we are seeing and making now is like greater than what was then, but although maybe not of the very recent years, let's put it that way. But I just remember thinking like, this is astounding. I'm so invested in this film, like right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And as Romona said, just from that, like the sharp dialogue, like from that opening scene, it's self-referential. It's
Mhm.
um and it does so much of like what modern storytelling has been doing now for years. But I think, like, again, when we study like the postmodernist movement, it's like only from like the 1970s. But this does what so many postmodern films do. It like frames the narrative for us. We go back in time.
Mhm.
There's several narrators, and so it just feels so much. It feels so modern. There's
Mhm.
very few, maybe there's like a few lines here and there that are like not PC, or that are dated a little bit, but it's very watchable now in
Mhm.
2026.
Yes.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about this as a postmodern text, but I really like that reading. With like the framing device of how the story is set up, and the what was the other, just like the
Narrators.
self-referential aspect of the movie. Like those are
Yeah.
very prominent features and elements of postmodern art, or like postmodern cinema specifically, if we're talking about it, talking about this medium, which I hadn't thought of, but I totally I love that.
Mhm.
uh there's so many things that you guys brought up that could be good jumping off points for us. There's the Marilyn Monroe scene stealing, there's Bette Davis being Bette Davis, but I think I want to start with the script, because this
Mm.
is a really, really strong script, in both just like having witty dialogue and just the construction, like the framing of the whole story right to that postmodern point. What do you guys think of how it is that this story is like set up, and how it kind of like develops and reveals itself over time, just from like a script construction standpoint, or also just the witty lines of dialogue that are great in this?
I love that
Yeah.
they were, like he mentioned, the various narrators. I really enjoyed that aspect of the script a lot, because you're getting a lot of explanation and insight into each character that gets to narrate. it starts with Addison, who, when you get to learn his character, I mean, what a piece of crap. I hated him so much. I was like, what a piece of shit. But he's a critic, you know what I mean? Like, and they really play into that, um, just venom of his pen, so to speak. And I think if he had been the narrator through the whole thing, I think you might have had kind of that unreliable narrator feeling at the end of that movie, like how much of this was true and how much is it from his point of view of what actually happened. So I like that it was him and Karen. Did Margot narrate? I can't remember. I don't think she ever did. I don't think she or Eve ever had a narration, but a lot of it was Addison and Karen. And plot to keep Margot from catching her train. And it's just all in her head, and you can see her working through how to get Eve on stage. It's just, there's just something so clever about it to me, of how they worked that in. And I don't know, it's just, like I said, like the dialogue, like sometimes when you're watching modern movies, a lot of the dialogue is slowed down. I mean, I watched His Girl Friday, and I had to rewind a few times. Like, I had to like go back. I was like, what are they saying? Because it's just like constant. And this is just like, you have to keep up with what they're talking about. And it was just, I don't know, the insults and the back and forth banter, especially between Margot and Bill, just fucking fantastic. Like, I was in it. I was on board with all of it. Margot is such an incredible character. Which makes the ending, I mean, the ending was what it was, but I was just like, I just want to see her grab Eve by the hair and just like throw her through a window and just go for it. Throw her down the stairs. I don't care. Just do something. But no, the script was, like I said, I just don't feel like there's many movies that are made like that anymore, that are written that way. I feel like everything's slowed down a lot in modern movies, and there's just, I don't know. I think this one best screenplay at the Oscars, did it? I know it won Best Picture. Yeah, so I mean,
I
deserved.
think it was
So deserved.
adapted. It was adapted.
Yeah, adapted. Yeah, from that short
Based on a
story, I
short
think, from
story,
Cosmo,
yeah.
which I read about that this morning too, which was fascinating. That it was sort of based on a true story, which kind of really made the rest of the film really like more interesting to me, knowing that this stuff happens. And I think my husband said this movie was bitches be crazy. I don't know. So he's like, women are crazy. I was like, yeah, well, they gotta be. So I don't know. The script is so tight. It's witty. It's 2 hours and 15-minute movie. And I never, like I said this morning, I did not feel the length of it watching it. And I do feel the length of some 2-hour movies. I'm like, is this done yet? Like, when is this going to be over? This one, it was just like, there's no downtime. There's no dullness. I think they did a really good job at, cutting out the stuff that is unnecessary, keeping the plot going. You feel the character development from every single character involved. And I love how they start at the beginning and they go back in time. And that's only like a span of, did they say October to June? Like, not even a year. Yeah, not even a year that's happened, but you feel every scene, and it's just like you feel the passing of time. And I don't know, it's just really, really great writing. I wish I could write like that. I would never will, but it's just you see a movie like this and you hear it, and it's just like, God, that's why you love movies, because you see something like this and you're like, this is art. This is cinema.
Thomas, I'm going to kick it over to you, but it's one of those scripts where you're like, gosh, I could read every script writing book and manual in the world, and I'll just like never be able to write something like this.
Never going to get to that. No.
Have it, so like, Joseph Mankiewicz can just like fart out this like amazing script.
Like that.
I could study for years and years and never be able to.
I mean, you can write a script. You could probably write a good movie, but there's some people that just have that inherent talent for words, and God, so good.
I also want to come back to the idea of whether or not this movie is about bitches be crazy, because I think that is an interesting question. But before we circle back to that, Thomas, what were your thoughts on the screenwriting in this one?
I mean, Romona said so much of it already. I think there's a few things. Like, the one thing that I noticed upon watching it again recently was how there's really only two things that happen that cause Margot to be suspicious of Eve. And
Mm-hmm.
really it's the phone call that she places to Bill at midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and it's watching her bow in her costume. That's it. That
Yep.
and then the morning after, she says to Birdie, she's like, you don't like her. And so that's sort of confirmed. And so again, it's like it's this 2 hour film, but they are so economical with how they reveal bits of information. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is we never doubt that Margot is maybe suspicious for the wrong reasons. Like, and
Yeah.
granted, as the viewer, we are that opening scene, Addison sort of those shots of those people and how irritated they seem at this award ceremony does give
Mm-hmm.
us clues to that. So, but Margot as a character is only given these two sort of instances, and that's enough. We buy into that completely as the audience, and she buys into it, and it sort of unravels as we go along. And so that was the one thing, and then the other thing that is present in so many of the scenes is how they use a phrase, and they
Mm-hmm.
repeats the phrase throughout the scene. So the one
Mm-hmm.
example is like, she's so filled with fire and music,
Yeah.
and the way that Margot sort of takes those words and like puts them in like a crossbow and just like
Mm-hmm.
shoots out so many of those arrows to so many
Yes.
of the guys in the theater. It's meant to be this compliment, but she takes it and she uses it and wields it like in this like a machine gun,
I
Yeah.
love
um
it.
and the other one that is used is like, oh, she's a woman of quality.
Quality.
um
Yeah.
and how, like, again, that's like such an ambiguous statement, but it so it can be used for like good and bad. And so the way ambiguity is used in so many of the scenes is also just like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also wrote, like, when I was in my notes, similar to what you were saying, Ramona, is like, do 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 we write films like this anymore, or am I just seeing the wrong movies?
It's
um,
very possible I'm just not seeing the right movies. Please
because
send me recommendations.
yeah, but I
You
can't
know?
recall. Yeah, so it's so
Yeah.
wonderful when you sit down and you just watch a film that's just been constructed so wonderfully, um
Yeah.
and also has so many important things to say. Like, there's the one scene where obviously Margot's really concerned with age, and so
Mhm.
that's then she gets told the one time, but I think it's Bill that says to her, you're as young as you want. And she says, no,
Mhm.
I'm as young as they want. And like,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
something like that that's just like a little crumb that you could feast, like have this whole meal on and deconstruct.
Yeah.
And some of it is like so funny. Like the party scene where they're listening to Liebertraum. It's this like
Uh,
very
Yeah.
this very
yeah, where's the
vivid.
body?
Yes,
Yes,
yes. Many of your guests are wondering when they can
where
view
the
the
body?
body. And so it's such a witty line, but then like
Mhm.
Margot comes back and she says something about like, it hasn't been laid out yet, we're still busy with the embalming. And I'm
Embalming. So good. Yeah.
so there's one quip and then it's just like topped with another. And
Yeah.
there's so much of that going on throughout the movie that's just, it
Yeah.
feels
Such a
like
witty
a kid in a
movie.
candy store.
Yeah.
It's so witty, but it's like it's not. I think it is funny because the characters are smart and quippy and witty, but it isn't necessarily a comedy. And I'm trying to think, like you guys are saying, and we do try to stay away from the, oh, movies today don't, have the juice the way that they used to in all these essential movies from back in the good old days. But it is hard to think of something that is, quick and sharp and witty and snappy the way that this movie is without like necessarily being a flat out comedy.
Right.
but has funny characters within it. Uh, I mean, like maybe a PTA movie, but his movies don't feel like they move as fast,
Yeah.
or like a Tarantino movie, which also it's its own different thing and doesn't necessarily feel all the way in line with how it is that this movie plays out. But thinking about like the script construction and maybe like what it is that this movie is able to do and like movies that are maybe more recent or modern aren't able to do, is that this was written before all of the books and theories about screenwriting were developed, and
Mm-hmm.
those books and theories were developed based on movies like this, where again Joseph Mankiewicz just like wrote a story because he's really good at writing a screenplay, and it
Mm-hmm.
has all the beats that you need for a successful movie, but he wasn't like thinking about those beats. It just sort of came out of him. And
Yeah.
again, like the way that the information is given to us with like these little crumbs of information placed at the right time, whether it be like about the actual narrative or the characters or its ideas about you know stage performing as an art form, all that stuff. It kind of comes out naturally, and then we go back and we look at something like All About Eve, and we're like, okay, these are all the beats that you have to hit for a story to be
Right.
good, and then we try to force whatever it is that we're writing now to fall into those categories, as opposed to just letting it like naturally come out.
Yeah.
Which I think people are people like subconsciously as audience members, we understand when that is or is not happening and how it is
Yeah.
that it's happening.
I think you see almost like a blueprint,
Yeah.
especially if you're a writer, here's what you have to include. I mean, you get taught that in English. You're English teacher, right? Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. I remember in high school when you had to write papers or you had to write creative writing. Here's the structure that you have to follow. Here are the rules of writing that you have to follow. Here's a book that tells you everything you have to follow when it comes to writing. And then I think sometimes, it's important, but it also limits, I think, a lot of creativity when you're trying to tunnel yourself into one particular rule set.
Isn't
So
that
it's always
antithetical
nice.
to
And,
the idea of
like you
creative
said,
writing or creative
yeah,
thinking? Like you're
right.
supposed to be creative. You're not supposed to
Creative.
be
You're not supposed to put me
following
in a little
rules.
box and say, follow these
Yeah.
rules and give me something creative. And like you said, that was a great point that back then you probably didn't have a lot of these screenwriting for dummies, in 1950. But now you read screenwriting for dummies, it's like, look at All About Eve and look at the structure and this is what you follow. And it worked for All About Eve. It's not going to work for every movie. That's why I'm always just like, when we talked about on ScreenAge Wasteland After Dark, how we write our reviews. This is like, I just have a stream of consciousness that I just like, this is what I'm thinking about this movie. Like, it's hard to follow that particular structure, but I could see how All About Eve could be, or any Oscar winning screenplay could be kind of like taught in schools and taught in college courses and all that, of like, this is what makes a really successful movie, screenplay. And it probably works 90% of the time, but I think that 10% you really hit it on. You get somebody who knows what they're doing and they don't need to follow a rule book about what they need to do and what beats they have to follow. So I don't know. That's why I think this movie was just great, because I don't feel like it really followed any particular beats to me. It just was, here's the story, here's the framework, here's the narrative that we're going with, and it worked so well. So yeah, give me more. Now I'm saying, give me more movies like All About Eve. Give me more screenplays just like this one.
I think the unfortunate truth is, which is hard as someone who likes to write, but the unfortunate truth is some people just have the goods.
They do, and it sucks.
Most
and
of us don't. If I could just, inherently know the right beats to hit while writing a screenplay,
the right words to use,
I would write a great screenplay. But I have to read Screenwriting for Dummies, which just means that I'm not good at it.
Yeah. Or it's not that you're bad at it; it's just you're good. But good is not going to win you an Oscar. You know what I mean? So it's good. It might get you a movie. It might, you might make a little bit of money, or you might just, it sucks and you'll never do it again. So who knows? Just some people have it and some people don't. And I do think that writing is something that you can learn and something that you can improve on.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that at some point there's a limit to how far you can go with writing. Either you have it or you don't. Like, I'm never going to be Stephen King ever. I can
Yeah.
try.
You're just not doing enough
Not
work
going to
on it.
happen. Yeah. So, but I know that I'm not going to even try. So
You're not
I
gonna
feel
try to
like
do
that with
Mountain Mounds of Cocaine?
screenwriters too. There are some screenwriters that just have the words and they make everything sound beautiful, and
Mm.
I can never be that witty. So I've accepted my fate. It's fine.
I
Do
was
we think
as we were talking about like what is a modern equivalent. Funny enough, um I just recently seen Devil Wears Prada 2, and I thought of the
Mhm.
original as something that comes a little bit like close to like clever, witty writing,
Yeah.
of that same sort of like style and caliber. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, that's what the sequel doesn't get right. But it sort of falls into the trap that you were just talking about, is like, okay, well, this is the structure that we need to follow. So let's just do that
Hmm.
again. And
Hmm.
no, but it worked for that particular story, for what you wanted to say with these characters.
Hmm.
But if you're just going to do the same thing, but 20 years later, it's like you're not bringing anything new to it. And the thing that made this work originally is not there anymore.
Correct.
So yeah, that was one that I
Yeah.
was thinking, yeah.
that's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It's got that kind of similar cadence to it. Uh,
Hmm.
kind of
Bitches
similar
be
in
crazy.
the characters and bitches be crazy. Okay, let's I was gonna save it for later, but it's right here for us. Um, we have to ask the question: is this movie about bitches being crazy? I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I think no, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to
Yeah,
hear
same.
what you guys think or how you read how it
I
is
mean,
that that idea plays out in this movie. I don't think that that's what's going on here at all.
no, it's not. It's
Mm,
it's the theater. It's ageism. It's ambition. It's what you have to do to get noticed and get ahead. And some people do it one way and some people do it another way. I think a lot of it is just the environment that these women are in, especially in 1950.
mm,
Um, and you see that at the end of the movie. It's a cycle. It will start again,
mm,
and it'll happen to Eve, it'll happen to Phoebe, and so on and so on and so on. And that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. And they touch on that in the themes of this movie so often. With Margot not wanting, she doesn't want to play the 20-year-old anymore. It's boring to her. You see that
mm,
she likes, I'm sure she loves acting, but I don't see any passion in her with that anymore. And I think that she knows that I think she's 40 in this film. But 40-year-old playing a 24-year-old, she's had too much life experience to be able to play that role anymore with any kind of like authenticity, I think. And I love that it plays on that, where Lloyd, the screenwriter, is writing these plays for her, but he's writing these heroines as 20-year-olds. Why isn't he
mm,
writing her a play
mm,
where she can be her age and play a woman with experience and play a woman who knows, what life is like at that particular age? Um, I'm I'm gonna tell you, I'm 45. I wouldn't want to play a 19-year-old. I can't play a 19-year-old, but I wouldn't want to play a 19-year-old. I've been there. I've done that. I'm done with it. Give me a story that shows the audience mature women. You know what I mean? So I can see where, my husband might watch this movie and be like, God, women are crazy. Look what they're doing to each other. But I'm like, I could easily turn around and be like, men have pushed them to have to do this to each other because they're the ones
yeah,
writing these
yeah.
plays and they're the ones directing these plays and they're in charge right now. It's different now in 2026, a little bit, but I just think it's just the nature of their profession. Like Eve, to me, I have no sympathy for her whatsoever, and I'm sure maybe you guys do, but I
Mm,
don't, because of how she chose to go about getting her foot in the door. Fine, but
mm,
after that, every choice that she made was a choice that she made, and it, to me, that doesn't excuse it. But I don't know, I just think it's more about the ageism in the culture of theater and Hollywood, even though I love that they had the theater versus Hollywood theme.
Yeah.
Like now you think of it almost as like they're all together because you see celebrities doing theater now and you see
Mhm.
theater going into movies. But it seemed like there was a lot of hostility between theater in the 1950s and what's going on in Hollywood. It's almost like, why would you want to go to Hollywood? Like you have this here and this is great and everything. So I don't think it is bitches be crazy. I think that there were some crazy moments from these
Mhm.
women, but at the same time, you almost like you see why and you see the justification in their mind of why. Just completely different kinds of paths that they're taking. So no, I agree with you, Raph. I don't think it was women are crazy. I just think some women have to do what they got to do to fulfill their dreams, and sometimes they
Mhm.
win and sometimes they lose everything. So it is what it is. It's Hollywood for you, or the theater. I don't know. I'm not a
That's
big theater
showbiz,
person.
baby.
Yeah, right. That's just my opinion. Just saying.
Yeah. No, I must say, I agree with you guys both as well. I think it's so much more than that. I think to simplify it to women being crazy is a very oversimplification of the screenplay that we've just been oogling
Hmm.
about. And I think there's a few moments where we see that sort of play out more in a more nuanced way, like for the fact that Margot, she has this disdain for Eve, but in the end
Hmm.
she sort of resigns herself. She's like, you know what, I'm done, like whatever,
Yeah.
she can do whatever she wants. And she does have that fantastic line where she says, um you can take the award and
Put
put
it
it
where
where
your
your
heart is.
heart should be.
Yeah. Love
And
it. So
that's it.
good.
She's sort of, she said she's had her piece.
Yeah.
She's made her piece. And then I think also reading it with a modern lens is, it's very interesting to see how the men play up against the woman.
Yeah.
So for example, I was looking very closely at Bill because the first time him and Eve sort of encounter each other in the dressing room, there's
Hmm.
this there's this idea that, oh, you can see what's going to happen, like Bill is going to fall for Eve's antics.
Yeah.
um
Yep.
but on a rewatch, you actually see that Bill is not giving any inclination that he's
Oh yeah.
actually interested in Eve. And then he sort of, it's confirmed later on that he really just loves Margot for who she is. I think a lot of um, the woman's reactions are not, apart from maybe Eve at the end, are not over dramatized. Like Karen just gets
Mhm.
into an argument with her husband, but she doesn't like
Hmm.
completely lose it.
Right.
It's people talking through issues instead of it just being seen as like this woman's being completely unreasonable. um
Right.
and I think that's the, again, the remarkable difference here.
They're
Yeah.
being very reasonable. I think every argument that they had with the men in their lives was very believable and
Yeah.
relatable. And Margot had Margot had a reason to be paranoid, not from Bill though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I also thought that because this was my first time watching it. So as soon as Bill came in and he and Margot had their banter and it's clear they're together, I was like, oh no. I was like, this is just going to be another step for Eve. She's going to steal Bill from Margot. It's going to be, and I was really happy that they didn't go that route. Like she went after the screenwriter instead. It was like, please just let Margot have one thing like, that is real. And for her, especially, her worry about the age difference, is very real, especially for
Mm,
older women and younger men.
mm,
So it was really nice to see like they didn't go down that predictable path. And Margot's paranoia and insecurities are a very real thing for a woman of 40, especially an actress, where a lot of her, her being is wrapped up in her talent and her looks. And, he's her director. And here's this pretty young thing coming in with this fire and music, talent and a revelation, blah, blah, blah. So I get it, and it was really nice that he didn't just walk out or call her crazy, or, it was,
Mm.
you're being paranoid. I love you. He was very calm about it. And even Karen's argument with Lloyd, when she started seeing Eve for who she is, I was like, it's about
Mm.
time you got on board with this. Cause like Margot was
Yeah.
right. But it was very, very, I think, no part of this did I feel like, wow, she's being really crazy right now and he needs to run far away. Not once, because
Yeah.
he's her husband and he's giving all this attention and time to this younger woman, and I get it. So yeah, I love that it was every woman in this, with whatever argument or fear they had, I felt it was very real, and it didn't, like you said, it didn't feel unreasonable whatsoever. They had every right to feel the way that they did.
Yeah.
So I think that they handled it, especially, I mean, no offense, but the screenplay being written by a man, it could have went a completely different way with
Yeah.
how these women were portrayed. So I'm glad that they really stayed on that path where they had every right to feel the way they felt. And I don't think that the audience ever, well, at least I didn't feel like they were being overly dramatic or out of line. I thought that they had every right to tell them. Maybe Margot was a little dramatic, a little like theatrical about how she felt about this stuff, which I actually loved. I loved it when she
Yeah.
threw fits
But
about
it makes
stuff.
sense for her character, right? It's
It,
not
it
like
did, she's an actress. Like, come
it's
on.
not a gendered thing. Going back to this
Right.
being a movie for the divas, like Margot is
She's a
the
diva.
ultimate diva, but it's
She is.
understandable for
Yes.
who her character is.
Yeah.
So you brought up a good point about this being a movie that was written and directed by a man, and also, right, this is a movie from 1950. So I
Mhm.
think as a modern audience member, it's really easy to go in with the fear that a movie about women from 1950 is not going to show and portray like really rich, layered,
Mhm.
Mm.
nuanced characters. But
Yes, it
the
did.
I mean, Margot, Eve, and a whole host of other characters in this movie are all of those things,
Yeah.
um, which I think goes to the idea that this movie, yeah, the thesis is not bitches be crazy, um, even though there is a gendered element to the like the back and forth that's
Yeah.
happening between the two, and you guys brought up like the how it is that they relate to men. And Ramona, I think this like the not stealing of Bill thing is pretty interesting
Mhm.
because, right, if we're thinking about how it is that like most men unfortunately view women, or like how women are viewed in a patriarchal society, and like how they would typically be written,
Yeah.
the main crux of their tension would be uh Eve stealing Margot's man,
Yeah. Yeah.
as opposed to it being a professional duel and clash that they're having.
Right.
Kind of roundabout way of asking the question, like how gendered do you think what it is that these two characters and their tension is, and how it plays out, like how much do you think that influences it or informs it, and how much do you think it's just like a byproduct of their profession that they're in?
Yeah. I think it is a byproduct of the profession. I think that I don't think it had anything to do with actual romance or the desire to have Bill. I think it had to do with he can get her where she wants to be. He's a director. Of course, she wants, and I do think that given her obsession, I guess, with Margot in the beginning, where she wants to learn from her and shadow her and be her, Bill comes with that.
Mhm.
So it was really nice. I think at one point I was like, is this going to turn into like single white female, where she's going to start stealing everybody in her life? You already see it with a little bit with Karen. Karen sort of taking her side a little bit, like Margot's being Margot and she needs a kick in the ass, so we're going to do this to her and everything. Um, but I do think that her desire to take Bill had more to do with a maybe a little bit becoming Margot, having that life, but also what can he do for her? Because everybody in Eve's life is what can they do for me? She couldn't have Bill, so then she went after Lloyd because he's the screenwriter, and she even told Addison he can write me so many fantastic plays. Addison, she used Addison too, to
Mm.
get her name in the paper and get herself out there. And then, of course, that backfired on her spectacularly, which I absolutely adored that scene. That was one of my favorite scenes, is when he tells her everything he knows about her. And you belong to me now. Sorry. And it's just like, oh no. It's like, oh, that's so wrong, but also so satisfying. Uh, so yeah, I think it did have more to do with the byproduct of their career and their professionalism than it did anything to do with romance or, having it be some kind of love triangle. I didn't feel that whatsoever. So,
Yeah.
because like, you know, Thomas, you said earlier, there's no inclination that Bill has any interest in her beyond, here's some advice for you from a director to an actress of what theater is and what Hollywood is. And it's up to you, you know, this is what you're going to get yourself into. And that was basically all it was. And he was just nice to her. That's it.
Mm,
But
mm.
Margot, of course, saw it as more than that. So, yeah.
And I think that's really, again, I kept thinking like, is this what we are inclined to read as modern audience members? Like the moment
Mhm.
there's another guy that comes in,
It's
there's
going to
another
be a,
woman that comes
yeah.
in, it's going to be an affair kind of
Yeah.
narrative. And
Hmm.
again, I'm so glad you brought up that scene in the end, because that was also like my worry, that line of "I own you" that Addison
Yeah.
uses. To what extent, like, you know, is that still like valid now in 2026? Like, or is it like entrenched in this like patriarchy of like a man owning a woman?
Yeah.
Um, but I think maybe again that's an oversimplification if we just say, "Oh no, he shouldn't say something like that." There's a lot more to it, because it's these two words, to use their words, champions or killers that are going
Yeah.
toe to toe in the end, and
Hmm.
she's just outplayed by him, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, and so again, it's not a gendered thing so much as it's a newcomer into this
Hmm.
world of acting and entertainment, and Addison's sort of like, oh, you poor thing, like you thought that you were at the same level as me, and you really aren't.
You
So
Yeah.
sweet summer child.
yes, yeah,
You have no idea. He's been doing this a long time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was, and I like the line he gave her while she's and through the whole movie. I was like, I need somebody to throw themselves dramatically onto a piece of furniture and cry. This is what I'm used to in these movies. And then she did it, and I was like, yes. But he told her, um, he told her, he's like, we're, you know, he basically told her, we're so much alike. We have so much in common. I don't know why I want you, but I do. Like he didn't understand.
Mm,
He's like, this doesn't make any sense that I would want to be with you because we are so much alike. And he knows the kind of person he is. So it was just, I mean, she met her match in him, and she was getting away with a lot during that movie. So it was nice to see that he's slowly coming, you know, he's getting wise to her story, and he's looking into her backstory about her husband. And as soon as he asked her what theater she saw Margot Channing in San Francisco, I knew she was done. I was like, oh, he's got her. So
yeah,
she said Schubert. He said Schubert, and then it showed the Schubert in New Haven. Like,
yeah.
nope. And my husband was like, well, there could be more than one Schubert. I'm like, no, this is
Intentional.
this is intentional. This is he has her where he wants her, and I was just waiting for it to all come out, and it did in the best way. Of course, at the expense of Karen and Lloyd, which I didn't really feel that bad for Lloyd. But again, I don't know how reliable a narrator Eve is either, because you don't get into her head. Did you know? And it was clear that he didn't show up banging on her door like, "Oh, I want to marry you," because you know her reaction to him saying that didn't happen was basically like, "Oh yeah, but you know he still wants to marry me." So it's I didn't feel bad for him. I was kind of hoping Karen would kick him to the curb, but it didn't happen. So I guess you can't win all of them. But yeah, she got her comeuppance, in my opinion. She might have won that award. She might be going to Hollywood, but she has nothing. Like she has no friends. She
Mm.
has nobody in her life now that got her there, except for this critic who she can't stand.
Wait, sorry,
So
before we go fully to the ending,
yeah,
I want to kind of circle back to what Thomas was saying about the you know the two champions going toe to
yeah,
toe and all that, and like the element of or the question of whether or not this is more the drama that plays out between the divas, whether or not it's more gendered or whether or not it's more professional. And I do think that in this case it is more professional, but I do think that um, the gender dynamics do play a role.
hmm,
But something that I kind of came across while doing some research for this movie that I think is kind of interesting is apparently this is a big influence in the drag community,
hmm,
and apparently those like people who perform in that community can be very competitive. And it also got me thinking about just like art in general and
yeah,
whether or not these art forms should be as inherently competitive as they are. Like, Thomas, you're someone who's very involved in stage plays. Like, I think you teach drama at a high school. Um, do you think that this movie is kind of highlighting a maybe more unfortunate part of this art form that kind of undermines like what the entire art form should be? Like, how do you think that the competitive nature plays out in um stage acting and the way that it's like portrayed in this movie? I thought it was super interesting.
I mean, yo, that's such a great question because like I kind of want to zoom out even further and say like that's like competition in general, right? You're gonna have, whether it's a competitive sport or whether it's on the stage or whether it's in like a work set, whatever work setting you find yourself in, there's gonna be somebody that's gonna want to up you, that's gonna want to replace you, that's gonna want to be you, that's gonna want to be better than you. And so I think it's really, I just love, and I think Hollywood's got this problem as well. They love movies about Hollywood and
Yeah.
the theater. We know this, and so um, there's always like a bit of a wry smile to be like, they, part of the appeal to this is like we're seeing these celebrities, these characters that are celebrities, and we're so, because we're living in this celeb obsessed culture, it's like
Mhm.
we want more of their personal life. We want, and like what is meant to be private is like no longer private because of like social media and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I think like in the 1950s, there is this, and they toy with that in that one scene where they're at the party and everyone's in the staircase and they talking about life, but they're using like theater metaphors. And I think like then you go back to the quote of art imitating life. And
Yeah.
so there is this like blurred boundary of like where does my art form or my professionalism end and like the
Mhm.
rest of me begin.
Right.
And a lot of that is actually captured in the scene in the car,
Yeah.
with Karen and Margot, where she sort of has, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier about this not being about women are crazy kind of scenario, because Margot is very sober in that moment and really reflecting on her career and where
Yeah.
she's at and what that means. And so look, and then Raf, what you were saying about gender, I just wanted to, because it was a thought that I had earlier, was um, I think, men are slightly more oblivious to these nuances, social nuances. And so it's like, when a woman is seriously flirting with you, it's like, I can see that she's flirting with you. And it's like, no, she's just being friendly, that kind of that kind of scenario. And so I do think that's what you're talking about. That's an example of what you were referring to. It's like gender is a part of it, but it's not the main. It's not the main drive. It's more
Yeah,
professional
Mhm.
based.
they're not
Yes.
being combative with each other because they're women, but
Mm,
the way that their competitive um duel plays out in the course of the movie is partially informed by by their gender, which
Mhm.
again I think is really interesting, especially when we think about like, you know, I'm gonna keep coming back to the joke that I made on the front end where this is a movie for the divas, and I include myself in that. And but like typically when we think of divas, it's women and like maybe some like you know some queer communities. Like you're not typically thinking of like straight dudes as being divas, but this could easily be a movie about two guys like F1. The
Yeah.
F1 movie with
mm.
Brad Pitt from last year is kind
Oscar
of in the
nominated.
same
So,
it's it's kind of the same thing. It's a movie about two divas. One is
yeah.
older and one's younger, and they're they have professional clashes. What when they
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
should
that's
be
the point.
collaborating.
Yeah.
It's it's all part of the same thing, which I do find to be super interesting. Okay, I feel like I've had us on this topic for a while, so let's talk about the characters, and the right, like when we're thinking about how great the script is, part of it is the character development, but also part of it is the great performances. We talked about it a little bit, but Bette Davis is like
Fantastic.
absolutely absurd in this.
Mm.
I thought that Anne Baxter did a really good job going toe to toe with her and
Oh yeah.
holding her own and making Eve a really interesting, complex, introspective kind of character. I've seen some readings where people don't think that she's able to reach the same heights as Davis, which is like
No,
pretty hard. But
but
what
she
do you
doesn't
guys
need
think
to.
of the two performances, and how it is that these actresses bring life to these two figures? Like
I thought
Mark,
they balanced each other
mm,
really well because Betty Davis is Betty Davis. Like she's got the chops. She can do loud and she can do dramatic and she can do, that witty back to back banter with no problem. Like it just seems so effortless from her. But Eve is not that role. Eve is a subtle, very subtle performance. Anne Baxter, you don't know that she's a I hate the word, I don't want to use the word villainous, but I'm going to say it. You don't know that she's a villainous right away. Like she
mhm,
just seems like a starry-eyed, small town girl who followed her idol across the country to watch every well, I mean, could be swim fan right now, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
but you feel for her because she's got the story. She's got the only person that seemed to be kind of unmoved by her is Thelma Ritter, who's Birdie, who is also
Mm.
fantastic, by the way. I love her.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Rear Window is one of the best. Anyway, so I could go into her all day. But anyway, like Birdie's really the only one who starts to see her for who she is. But you don't see that until you pointed out, she's got those two scenes. She's got the midnight call with Bill, and then she's got the where she's bowing with her dress and everything. Which at the time it seems like like Margot's kind of like, oh, that's so cute. Like she's wants to be me, but then it turns into, oh shit, she's after my man. She's trying to make some problems. But Anne Baxter's is she's so very sweet and you almost believe her because she's so good at manipulating people with that. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And Addison took my words and made them his own. And, you almost buy it. And Karen did buy it in the bathroom. She started to go back to, let me know what I can do for you. But then just like that switch is turned on and she's like, oh, there is something you can do for me. And it's so like venomous, but like so like subtle in her venom that you're just like, oh shit. Like she's just like that light in her eyes goes away. And it's just like, this is what you're going to do for me now. And if you don't, then they're going to find out you're the reason why Margot missed her, her performance and why I got all the attention. And Addison's going to write a column about it and you're going to be ruined. And Lloyd's going to be, I mean, it was so perfect. It wasn't an in your face malice. It wasn't, overly dramatic. I'm an evil villain. Ha ha ha.
yeah,
It was
totally
so
missed
just
that.
like, it
Yeah,
was this quiet subtlety that she had when talking to her. And even when she's talking to her about trying to play, not play Cora, that was the bathroom scene, but before when she wanted to be the understudy, she
mhm,
did it in such the soft way that you can't help but be like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely help you. This is great. We're going to do this. But as an audience, you see it and you're like, oh man, she is manipulating the shit out of these people. And it was so perfect. The whole movie after that, I was like, please somebody take her down because it was pissing me off so bad. But yeah, so I think to get back to the point, Betty Davis and Anne Baxter, man, their two performances were so different, but they were so balanced and grounded in each other, the way that they played off each other. I don't think it would have worked if they were both like these dramatic yelling at each other, throwing things at each other, like Joan Crawford, Betty Davis kind of,
yeah,
Mm.
duel going on. It was perfect the way it was because Eve managed to make Margot look like she was crazy. She managed to have the people in her life look at her like, oh, here she goes again. Like she's being overly dramatic and paranoid. And Eve is she's a woman with quality and she's so good to you and she does everything for you. And so, yeah, I thought both performances were exactly the way they needed to be. I don't know why anyone would think Anne Baxter didn't rise to that occasion because I thought she was phenomenal in her, the way that she handled Eve, especially at the end, because she was so far from the woman that you see in the very first scene waiting outside that theater compared to her going toe to toe with Addison. Like, it was just,
Mm.
the character development was amazing. Just everything she managed to hide from the people in her life was just fantastic. I think they were both nominated too for Best Actress, so
They
very
were,
well deserved for both.
and both lost, which is
They both lost, which
Yeah.
honestly,
yeah.
who'd they lose to? Do
They're
you
probably
know?
taking votes away from each other. They
Yeah,
lost to Judy Holliday,
Yeah.
from Born Yesterday.
Born Yesterday.
Yeah, which I haven't
I love
seen.
Judy Holliday. I can't be mad about that. Sorry.
Thomas, I'm gonna throw the same question over to you, but
Mm.
a comparison that's popping into my mind. Again, I don't agree with it, but I think maybe it's similar to how people think of Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood, where he is going toe to toe with Daniel Day-Lewis, but because
Yeah.
one is Daniel Day-Lewis and one is not quite Daniel Day-Lewis, even though it's like an unknown going toe to toe, right? Like Bette Davis is like, that's Bette fucking Davis.
Yeah.
No one can go toe to toe with her, but then you have this like kind of unknown in Anne
Yeah.
Baxter, and she's like, nope, I'm gonna go toe to toe with her. But
She
Thomas, what
did.
did you think of the
Yeah.
Yeah.
two performances?
Yeah, I think Romona, you said so much of what makes the two performances so great.
Mhm.
And I think what I was reminded of is also how both have a type of duality to them. And in the duality, it's more obvious with Eve's character because she plays both this two-faced woman.
Mhm.
But then Margot's is this over dramatic actress, but also
Mhm.
this human that
Yeah.
really has, and she questions that in one or two scenes as well, where she's like, where does Margot Channing end? And is
Right.
Bill, like, once I'm no longer Margot Channing, is Bill still going to be there? And so that's what makes both of them so great, is because both actresses play this duality so perfectly. Um,
Yeah.
and just to go back to what we touched on earlier, is the fact that both of them were nominated for Best Actress. And so after watching it again, I just went into like this deep dive of like, let's just go and I came across Be Kind Rewind's look at this Oscar race, this Best Actress Oscar race from the 1950s, and how fascinating it was, because it was also the year of Gloria Swanson and Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, you're right.
and
Yeah.
and so
Wow.
you've got like these incredible, like, to this day, all-time performances, and like
Yeah.
four of them have to lose. And
Yeah.
like, haven't I started watching is it Born Yesterday? Born,
Yeah.
what's it called? Yeah, I
Yeah.
started
Born
watching
Yesterday.
it and just like was like, oh no, I've had my black and white full for the week. And so I need to come back to it.
Yeah.
But I have this like urge in me to be like, what flippin' was better than this? Please just tell me.
Right.
Because
Show me. Yeah.
but also just like the like the politics of like the Academy Awards and stuff like that. I think that had a lot to do with it. But also just in where Bette Davis was in her career.
Yeah.
Be Kind Rewind was talking about like how she had a decade of like very mediocre films, and
Yeah.
this just like brought her back to that, which so I think that, like, again, like that life imitating art uh thing comes about again. But then also just to talk about Thelma Ritter and I forget the lady that plays Karen.
Celeste Holm.
Celeste Holm, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Both of
And
them got nominated.
both of
Yeah.
them got nominated, and
Mm-hmm.
to this day, it's still the only film to get nominated for four actresses.
Four. Yeah. It's
Um,
crazy.
and it's wild. And also like looking at why Anne Baxter went into Best Actress and not supporting, because I think in 2026 they might have put her in supporting and she would have been a sure win, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Sure.
But there was this interesting portion where supporting actress at the time was about a supporting role, and so you were seen as like less than,
Right.
in the early days of the Academy Awards. And so like she didn't want to do that. She was like, I am as good as that. And to your point that you were making earlier, but to go to Celeste Holm and Thelma Ritter, again, very different characters, very fully realized characters. And Birdie only has like a few scenes, but the impact
Yeah.
that she makes in those scenes are just incredible. She's the one that knows from the beginning that there's something
Yeah.
up with Eve. You can see her as this typical like somebody that knows this famous person well and is also there to protect them, and
Yes.
just has that wicked sense of humor as well, when she's like, oh brother, it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
when she's about to become Lady Macbeth, you know.
Yeah.
Or something along those
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah, she's Lady
um
Macbeth.
and then you've got Karen's character, which is a lot more subtle, but also, in that scene where she's confronted by Eve,
Yeah.
to see the progression in that scene from like caring friend to panic to how am I gonna swing this? Like there's a lot in there as well. I do think Thelma Ritter's performance is slightly better, but again, it's a whole host of like wonderful female performances. And
Absolutely. Mhm.
ironically, who lands up winning? Edison DeWitt, the guy.
It's like Barbie all over again.
A rare W for the
Who gets
patriarchy.
nominated? Ken. Come
Yeah.
on. And I was
Exactly.
actually disappointed about that, that Birdie kind of disappears after like the
Mm,
first third of the movie. Like the first half of the movie, she kind of goes away and we don't hear from her again, which is a shame because I loved her character.
mm,
It was very, to me, very reminiscent of her role in Rear Window, where she's like, the helper and she's just on par. There's something about that actress that I just adore. And as soon as she came up, I was like, I know her. Of course, I had to pause it and go and look. I was like, oh, Miracle on 34th Street, Rear Window, which is one of my favorite movies. I was like, of course, that's her. But yeah, it's a shame that Birdie kind of disappears through the movie because I think she would have been a lot of fun to have throughout the whole thing, seeing Margot's kind of descent a little into, her distrust and dislike of Eve because Margot or Birdie was there from the beginning, knowing, she kept her mouth
mm.
shut until Margot said, "Hey, you don't like her, do you?" She's like, "Do you want an argument or an
Yes.
answer?" Like that was great. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
shame that she kind of disappeared through most of that movie, but they were all fantastic as they were there. Yeah.
And that sort of like that brings me to my one gripe, where I've actually got one and a little bit of a gripe. The one thing with the film, I don't like the tracking shots by the Schubert Theatre. I think it's like one of the few technical shots
Takes you out of it.
that
Yeah.
really just takes you out of it, and
Yeah.
really dates the
Agreed.
movie.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and it's you were talking about this earlier, is the fact that you've created these superb characters, and the way that it ends is with this other character that you've just introduced,
Mhm.
with her having this moment with all the mirrors, and it's beautifully shot, and I can see what everything that he's trying to say, but I'm just like, you've got these amazing iconic characters, and
Yeah.
we don't end with them, we end with somebody else's story. And maybe that's a subtle comment on like the fickleness of like the entertainment industry, or
Yeah.
maybe that's reading too much into it, but like I also was just like, oh man, it would be so good. Like even DeWitt's line where he says, it's one of his final lines. He says something about, along the lines of, do you must ask Miss Harrington about how to get one. She'll tell you
She
all about
knows.
it. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's scene. That's where that's like, that's an
That's where you
iconic
end.
line. That's where you end it.
Yeah.
And so there were a few, or like even the moments about, and we touched on it earlier, where we talk about like the cost of, yes, this is the way that she's made her way to this award, Eve,
Mhm.
um, and then they go to the party and she says, you can take it to the party instead of me.
It's the
Um,
same thing. Yeah.
yeah, and it's this like, you sort of get this idea that it wasn't worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all of
loses
the
herself.
conniving and everything, it really wasn't. She doesn't have any friends, and the only friend that she does have, she doesn't like. She doesn't even thank
Right.
him. She doesn't even
She
thank
didn't
him
even
in the
thank him.
speech.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah,
It was great.
and again, I'm like, well, would she thank a critic, or is like, she could have like mentioned him as a friend, but she doesn't, and that's like how
No.
cold she actually is.
Towards him, yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
it is also kind of a commentary on just how sort of like, I don't know if corrosive is the right word, but like that the industry is, right, where it does really
Yeah.
strip you of all your humanity, and in order to reach those heights, you do kind of end up losing yourself. It isn't. Am I misremembering, or is the ending then that girl who's like, "Oh, I'm in one of the Eve
Fan clubs
Fan
fan
clubs, yeah.
clubs," and it's just like, oh, okay, the cycle's going to start all over again,
all over again.
and
Yep.
that's just like the nature of this industry, of this art. It's
Yeah.
all these people are going to continue to be sort of like ground up in the cycle, and
Yeah.
it's interesting, thinking about that as a thesis of the movie, because as people who love movies and the arts and stuff, we like to think that these aspects of life are sort of free from those things, like for not to get too much into it, but for me I would be like, oh, that's like how business operates,
Yeah.
where you end up losing yourself within it, and then we all become part of this like gross vicious cycle that like strips us of our humanity,
And
and the
never
thing is,
replaced.
and then we're
Yeah.
replaced by someone else.
Yeah.
Maybe not a fan, but we are replaced by someone else,
We are replaced by somebody. Yeah.
or AI.
Even worse.
But like, like for me, like I always hold this more romantic view of movies, of theater, that it's not the same. And this movie's kind of like, nope, it's
It's the
shitty there
same.
too. It's the
Mhm.
same.
It's the same. Yeah. And I noticed, Thomas, when you were talking about the ending, how like we have these amazing characters and they end on this person we literally just met, holding her award, wearing her cloak in the mirrors, which was, yes, a very beautiful shot. And, I think we all know what, they were trying to say was, hey, we just spent all this time with these people you have grown to either love or hate. But this is the nature of the beast where, guess what? They're gone now. Here's this new person you got to get to know, and you're going to, deal with them now. And we said earlier how this went, the timeline was like October through June, not even a year. But did you notice, like in that last scene with Eve and Phoebe, Eve was essentially Margot. She was very beaten
Yeah.
down, smoking,
It's
kind
like,
of like
yeah.
laid out on, kind of,
Yeah.
talking to Phoebe the way that Margot had talked to her initially in that dressing room. So I was like, man, that didn't take very long for all of this to catch up to her, did it? Because it
Yeah.
was like not that long. But yeah, she kind of ended it without the people that she thanked in her award, which you wonder, I don't know that she meant any word of any of it. She's just playing up to the cameras and the critics and the journalists. But, these people helped her get to where she was, and she treated them so badly. And I love that the only person who seemed to react with any kind of, admiration was Max, the producer,
Yes.
Max Fabian. The others just were like, whatever, didn't applaud, didn't smile, nothing. Like she was left with it without anything.
Yeah.
Karen got to leave with Lloyd, and Margot got to leave with that great line of replacing her heart with the award because she didn't need to worry about it. So she got what she wanted too. She didn't have to play 20-year-old anymore. She got married. She's happy. And I think that was her best kind of revenge rather than just getting a role. So I thought it was all very, very well earned, let's say. So I
Yeah,
really
everyone
enjoyed
kind of
that.
gets what they deserve at the end. And
They do. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's easy to read that Margot ends up having a happy ending, and obviously
Yeah.
Eve,
She did. I feel like she did. Yeah.
Eve does not have a happy ending. Although if she falls victim to the same cycle, then maybe she will be freed of
The same
curse
way.
of,
Yeah.
curse of stage acting in the same way that Margot was.
Yeah.
So okay, I have one more question that I want to ask you guys, and then I have a few like rapid fire questions that I'm gonna do. But I know
Oh God.
both of you guys had some insight into not necessarily like the full backstory of how this movie came to be, but some maybe interesting behind the scenes kind of stuff. Do you guys want to walk us through what beef there may have been on set between a few of the main players?
The only beef that I discovered, which I found fascinating, was I read that on the first day of shooting, Celeste Holm, who played Karen, came on set and said good morning to Bette Davis, who responded with "Oh shit, good manners" or something like that. And Celeste Holm was very offended by this and never spoke to her again, apparently. And then in an interview later, Bette Davis said that filming All About Eve was one of the happiest sets she ever worked on, except for Celeste Holm, who was a real bitch. So, which is a testament to their acting, because I did not see any of that hostility in their performances. They really felt like very close friends with you, especially the scene in the car where Lloyd goes off to find gas or whatever, and they're talking about Margot's identity as Margot Channing and everything. And just that scene together, I was like, oh, I love this. Like they're finally, reconnecting. And then it's like, oh yeah, they hated each other off set. I was like, no, I was like, why? But I mean, I'm sure that happens. I mean, people are not their characters. So there's not always going to be a happy medium on these sets. But I found that to be really interesting. I was like, I would read a book about the making of this movie for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like it's again to go to, well, we haven't spoken about it a lot, but Eve's speech is like the whole idea of an actor portraying a character who is acting.
Right.
Is also like so interesting to watch, because if it's done right, there's so much complexity there.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just like it's yeah, I don't want to go back to it, but it's life imitating art again.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
I see
and
that.
and I think, if I'm not mistaken as well, so this, in terms of the Oscars, lands up winning 6 Oscars
Mhm.
for Best Director, Best Picture,
Yeah.
Adapted Screenplay, and I think it was Sound and Costume. But the director and writing credit for me were very interesting, because Joseph Mankiewicz like won Best Picture the year before, I think,
Oh.
and like had just come off of a like Best Director win, and then to go. So I'm like, this guy's insane. Like,
Yeah.
like the only, like, I'm thinking of like Tom Hanks that did like the
The
Forrest
back
Gump
to back.
to, yeah, and like to do that is like wild to me. So like it really has invigorated for me, like this idea of like go back to see some of these classics. Like, I mean, you mentioned Rear Window. I've never seen Rear Window, and so like I need,
So good.
there's so many gems that we
Yeah.
just like don't get to.
Yeah.
And just the fact that these are there. And then also the guy that plays DeWitt, it's I forget the actor's name, but I also, first viewing, I'm like, I know this guy, like something that it's a bell ringing.
Yes.
And he's Shere Khan in the
The
Jungle
Con in
Book.
the Jungle Book. That's so funny because last night my husband would look at me. He's like, "I know his voice."
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
every time he talks, I'm hearing it. I'm like, I know his voice. And then after the movie, I went on, and he also, I think he won Best Supporting Actor as well, didn't he,
Yeah.
at the Oscars?
He
And I
did.
went on, I
Yeah.
was like, nope, he's not going to know any of these movies. And then I got to the Jungle Book. I was like, he was Shere Khan in the Jungle Book. He's like, that's it. He's like, that's where I heard his voice. I was like, of course. He was very good too. But yeah, you were watching these movies, like, I know this person. In Rear Window, I do have to say the reason that I watched Rear Window for the first time many, many years ago is for the Canon. So again, thank you, Canon, for making me watch these
Yeah.
fantastic movies. Now it's one of my favorites. Like, it's an incredible movie. Thelma Ritter is also in this movie. So
Great episode.
yeah, it was.
We'll have to go look.
There's also another fun little trivia is Bette Davis was going through a divorce while filming this, and I read that her raspy voice was due to her bursting a blood vessel in her throat from screaming at her ex-husband so much that she burst a blood vessel in her throat. And the director liked the sound so much that he didn't want her to work around it. He wanted her just to speak as is, which is incredible. But she also fell in love with Gary, what's his name? Gary something. He plays Bill Simpson.
Yeah.
They fell in love on set and got married and adopted 2 kids and then got divorced 10 years later. And Bette Davis said that it was very similar to that speech she made in the car about would Bill still be there when she's not Margot Channing anymore? Is he in love with her character, like who she is as an actress? And Bette Davis said that was essentially them. They married each other because of those characters. They didn't marry each other because of who she was and who he was as a person. They married each other based on like falling in love as these characters, which I find fascinating that they managed to last 10 years with that revelation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they did. They adopted 2 children, and I had no clue that they had been together, but it kind of adds a little bit of a layer of what was going on behind the scenes of this movie. So yeah,
I mean,
please somebody write a book and let me read it.
Life
I want all the drama. I want all the
imitates art.
tea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of tea with this one. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect or any shade to any of our acting friends, but I think that this movie does, and that story kind of highlights that in order to be a good actor, you got to be a little off. There's just where does the
Yeah.
real person end and where does the performance start? You know, you hear
Yeah.
speeches and interviews from actors, and you're like, these are the weirdest people.
The
in
weirdest
world.
people.
And I
Yeah.
understand why. In order to be good at that, you cannot be a normal person. Like I can't
No.
go pretend to be someone else for, you know, days, weeks at a time, and then like go back to being my normal self. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Especially the
It's
people
an
who
insane profession.
the people who do method acting. I'll
Yeah.
never understand it.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like,
You
Yeah.
hear
it's
Adrian
so
Brody's
bizarre.
Oscar speech, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense that he's the weirdest dude ever.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't be, you know, you can't ever have a performance like that if you're not a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not a bad thing
No.
all the time.
We-
Sometimes that's really because you get some really great performances out of the
Yeah.
weirdos.
But I mean, that's the whole thing with Eve is, you know, where
Yeah.
her greatest performance isn't anything that she does on stage. It's
Yeah.
this persona that she
Mm.
Yeah.
creates in real life in order to get what it is that she wants.
Yeah.
Out of
Because you see who she really is at the end in that scene with Addison. You see
Yeah.
that's her. But
Mm.
through that whole movie, you're like, oh, what a sweet, you know,
yeah, she's
you
playing
could
a
think
role
to yourself,
movie.
she was very just quiet and meek, and I'm so sorry, and I'm so terrible, and whatever, and it's whatever. Horrible person.
Oh man, there's so much more great stuff that we need to get to. One thing, I don't know if either of you guys came across this, but apparently Bette Davis wasn't the first option for
No,
Margot,
No, she
which is
wasn't.
wild.
it's
because
crazy.
you
There was
can't-
many options before her.
you can't think of this movie, or I can't imagine this movie with anyone but her.
Mm-mm.
It's just the perfect fit
No.
for her.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting the actress's name, but it was speculated that she based the Margot character off of someone who she had like a real life beef with or real life competitive.
Yeah. I
um,
can't remember the name either. I know who you're talking about. And I think that actress actually came out later and said, oh, she based Margot on me. And then
Yeah.
Bette Davis denied it, but then later kind of was like, oh, yeah, this
Yeah,
is a
sort
little
of.
bit like this actress.
maybe I
Yeah,
did.
wink,
Yeah,
wink.
little wink, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
I think they initially wanted Claudette Colbert from It Happened One Night
Yes.
to play Margot,
I think
but
she
she
was
heard her
second choice.
back.
There was someone before her.
It was Claudette Colbert. They actually cast her, but then she
Mhm.
got hurt on her movie set for like a back injury, and they're like, we can't wait for you to get better. So they recast her. They had to recast her. And I know they wanted, I think they talked about Barbara, which is funny because they mentioned Barbara Stanwyck at the end of the movie when Phoebe's talking to Eve, but they mentioned her, and there was somebody else they wanted, Ingrid Bergman they wanted, but she wouldn't leave Italy to
Mhm.
come film. So it seemed like there was a lot of choices before they got to Bette Davis. And I guess Bette Davis and who was the producer? Danny, starts with a Z.
Oh,
They
like Zywick
they
or
were not on
something?
yeah, they were not on speaking terms. They had a bad experience with each other. They weren't
Mhm.
talking. So when he called her, she thought it was a prank, and he had to send her the script and everything. But then she read the script, and she said she was willing to do anything to play Margot. So then Joseph Menkowitz got a call from her previous director saying she's a pain in the ass. Good luck. She's going to make your life hell. But then he said she was one of the most professional actresses he'd ever worked with because she felt like the dialogue was so good that she didn't need to rewrite it. She didn't need to fix it like she did with her last
Yeah.
movie. So I thought that was, I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
more on you, dude.
I mean, we spoke about it at the beginning, you know,
Yeah.
Mankiewicz is,
So good. You don't change it. There's
yeah,
nothing to change. You
nothing
don't
to
need to.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was, yeah, an absolute beast. Okay, another interesting question for you guys. Apparently, I don't know how recently this was, but this was made or remade as a stage play in the West End, starring Gillian Anderson and Lily James.
Mm.
My queen.
How do you guys think that this would translate to the stage? And Thomas, I want to go to you first because you are our resident
Yes.
theater expert.
Yeah.
So I feel that why it works so well. I think the short answer for that question is yes, because I think you know, often the difference between film and theater is that in film you've got shorter, quicker scenes, whereas the on stage your scenes are longer, several minutes long, and so um, you can't, um, especially when it comes to the writing, you can't, there are no shortcuts. Like these characters have to interact with each other. They have to say something meaningful. And I think it very easily translates because and I think this is part of the appeal for me personally, is like, because it feels like a play in many ways, that you sit with the characters, you have these phenomenal scenes between a variety of characters. It's not like the same characters sitting in the scenes, or so there's different mixes that happen
Hmm.
throughout. And I think it's the characters are so well fleshed out, and the dialogue is so well written that absolutely it could translate to
Yeah.
and in fact I do this thing where I'm like, whenever I'm watching a film, because stage plays are so difficult to like get a hold of in script form,
Yeah.
and so I'm often like watching something, and if something is a longer scene, then I'll make a note of it and like say like, go and look at this. I'll say to my students like, go and look at this. This is, it's film, but it will work on stage as well. And I think there's like 5 or 6 that I've like taken from All About Eve, and I really
Nice.
want to get like this stage version of it,
Yeah.
just to see, what changes, because you do need to make changes obviously, but what works, what have they tossed, what have they added, and yeah, so I'd be really keen to actually read that and see the performance as well.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ramona?
I just want to see Gillian Anderson play Margaret Channing. Like I would love that. I
Yeah.
I mean, I always look at most movies, but like this could be a musical, or this could be a play. Like
Yeah.
I look at a lot of movies like that, and I don't go see a lot of stage. I've been to see a lot of stage stuff, mostly musicals, but um, like Thomas said, this feels like very much almost like a theater production.
Yeah.
And a lot of it takes place in a theater, while
Mm.
a lot of the more important scenes take place there. So, yeah, I think that could absolutely happen. I think the casting of Lily James and Gillian Anderson in the South End, like, I think that's brilliant, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
Gillian Anderson is one of my favorite people in the world, and I think she could do anything. So I would have died to be able to see that. And maybe there's something on YouTube or something where I could watch it. But yeah,
Hopefully.
National
they,
Theatre
they,
Live did do a recording of it.
did they? Oh
Yeah,
frick!
they
Okay, so
did.
yeah,
So
I'll be
it is
watching that.
available
There
somewhere.
you go.
I'll be watching it then just to
Yeah.
see, because it is interesting when you take a movie and you turn it into a stage production. Like, what are they taking away from the movie to make it fit into a stage production? So that would be really interesting to see what they did to,
Yeah.
add or take out, especially a movie like this where almost every scene is important. So you almost want to
Mm.
see what they do to it. So I'll have to check that out.
I think this movie would translate because it doesn't feel that cinematic, right? Like there are like a few
Mm.
tracking
Yeah.
shots, like a few zooms,
Yeah.
but otherwise like location and camera is pretty static. So like I think in that element it translates. The only thing for me is I think being removed from the medium that it's about
Yeah.
makes it a little bit better. Like, because it's a movie about theater, that makes it more digestible. I just don't know
Yeah.
how it would feel or look to watch a play about the theater. I think that would be a little too close to home, the same way that sometimes movies about movies are
Yeah.
a little too close. Like a movie about another art form feels a little bit better than a movie about
Yeah.
movies. So that would be the
Yeah,
only
that's a good
thing
point.
that that I think could. I mean, it would be interesting to see how it plays out, and if it just like the power of the script kind of carries it through. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It-
that's I think.
and just on this is I had this idea, not idea, like this moment where I was like, I really hate this trend of like remaking like classics and stuff like that. But and I was just like,
But
who could like who could do this script justice in a remake of this, and I was just thinking in terms of like generational performers. Like I think of like, I mean, Meryl Streep's like too old to play Margaret Channing because she's
in her
in her
70s now.
70s, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Wonder
like
Woman from
that
the
kind
last.
of like Emma Stone or like Kate Winslet or
Oh,
and then
Kate
like,
Winslet would be good.
like this. I think that would be really cool to watch. But then I think people would then like discover the amazingness of this, but maybe use that as like a easy out to be like, oh well, I'll just watch this new version of it and not
And not,
appreciate the
yeah.
gold that was the original.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's why I think there's some, they said there's some movies that you just don't touch because they're just so good. Like you're not going to, it's fun to reimagine them in a more modern version with more modern actors. Like, oh, who would we cast in this now? And who would we do this now? But it's never going to really touch the magic of the original. So I'm always like, why are we trying? Like,
there's no
it's
need to
not.
remake this movie, but I think and it'll come up in recommendations. But I do think that there are
Yeah.
modern movies that are very much so informed by this, which is obviously the right way to go. Like,
Right.
I have a different story to tell, but it is very much so influenced by what's happening in All About Eve. I brought up There Will Be Blood, but like I do think a lot of PTA movies kind of play off of the same kind of format of this movie, where it's like two people who are just like competing with each other. It's super combative, and like how it is that they're trying to like outplay and outduel each other. I
I
think
love
that there are
it.
a lot of other things that are pulling from this. But before we get to that, I have 3 other questions that I do want to ask. But these we're gonna go rapid fire for these,
Oh no.
even though these are questions that we could spend like another 10-15 minutes on each.
Okay.
Okay, what's the order that I want to go in?
Oh no.
So, all right, we spoke a little bit about Marilyn Monroe and her one scene and how she's like a total scene stealer. I thought it was wild to watch this, knowing that it's like one of her first performances, and immediately you're just like, yeah, that person's gonna be a star.
She's gonna be a star.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Absolutely.
at first she wasn't supposed to have any lines, and then they were just like, this person, she's too good, give her a couple lines, and she's incredible. I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts on that.
The line when they're all on this scene is so good. We've talked about it many times when they're on the staircase.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She wanted the waiter walks by and she goes, waiter, and he's like, that's not a waiter, it's probably a butler. She's like, well, I can't say butler. What if someone here is named Butler? I don't know why I thought that funny. But then when Max goes to get her a drink and then they listen to Margot doing her thing and she disappears and she's like, she wants the drink. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. She's like, I didn't. She like takes a drink. It's just like those little moments like where she didn't have a whole lot to do, but she was really good in what she did do. So yeah, that was you can look at her and be like, why are they all so obsessed with Eve right now? Because like, look at this woman, she's freaking luminous. Like, go after her.
Yeah.
Like, she's the star.
And I think that's why they almost have to go that route of saying like, oh, it turns out she's actually like a really bad actress because
Right. Like she's
because
Coco's Cabana.
yeah, And how to go? Oh, go back to the cabanas. You know?
Coco Cabana, yeah. It was amazing.
And I think like because it is, I mean, she's so strikingly beautiful, and she has this way about her. But I think again that maybe she would just make a good influencer then, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Okay, here we go for rapid fire questions. Is this one of the first movies about the art of hating?
Wow.
Well, I mean, given that this is one of, I haven't seen as many classics as I want, I'll say yes. Just because there might be another movie, but yeah, I could see that. That's funny.
I'll say yes because
Yeah.
I can't wait to show this to my students and be like, look how much shade they are throwing at one another.
You're throwing
like
so much shade. There's so much happening here.
We're the divas.
So many divas in this
About
movie.
being a diva, we have to throw shade at each other.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Subtle shade and very obvious shade. So yeah, and maybe they'll pick up on a few things. Who knows? Learn how to do it better.
Yeah.
Some tips for being a hater.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, can we call this a melodrama, or would we call this a melodrama?
I don't think so. I saw it more like a dramedy. Like I saw it more like drama / comedy than anything else. I didn't think it was overly melodramatic at all. I thought it was funnier than it was dramatic. So I mean, it has its moments, but I thought the whole thing was hilarious in its own way. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I think, but I did have this interesting thing where it's like in the hands of a different cast and it could almost be like this thriller. Actually, that's like
single white female vibes.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. And I was like, wow, this works well as a comedy because of how it's been directed and how it's been acted. But you can take the exact same script or a very similar script, change one or two things, and it becomes this like obsession kind of
psychological.
And the more recognizable one to us as modern audience, I think.
Yeah.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. That's such a good call. Yeah, I think a more modern version of this movie definitely reads more as a
thriller.
And we've probably seen some thrillers that again are very much so informed by this movie. Awesome. Okay, my last rapid fire question, which is something that I personally would like to spend about 40 minutes talking about, but we have to get to recommendations, so we won't. Do we think that there are any queer undertones between the relationship between Eve and Margot?
I could see how someone watching it could pick up on it. I did not. But I can see why this is such a hit in the queer community. Bette Davis especially has a huge gay following, so I get it. And like you said earlier, like this movie is the drag community is inspired a lot by this film. So yeah, I could see it. I didn't pick up on any of that myself. Maybe being a straight woman, I just didn't look that way. But I could see how it could be construed with some kind of like overtones or undertones or whatever you want to say. Yeah, I could see that.
Tones.
Sure. Tones. Some kind of tone.
Yeah, I think again, because I think we're so gender focused nowadays, I think we maybe impart that meaning to the original text, but I don't think it was there to begin with.
I don't think it was intentional at all.
Yeah.
If it is there, yeah.
No. Well, I think going back to Tom's point about the last question, if this is made in a more modern sense as a thriller, I think then it would become
you could see it.
Maybe, undertones that we're projecting onto the movie that aren't necessarily there then become like full.
There'd be so much fan fiction about this movie if it was made today.
Yeah.
So much.
I mean, I do think that, this particular question for like, you can throw it out for any movie and there's going to be a reading of it where there's something going on between two characters, right? Where you're writing some kind of fan fiction, whether it's like Captain America, the Winter Soldier has like so much fan fiction about,
there's a whole fandom for that. Yeah.
About
100%.
And I'm forgetting Cap's name, but yeah.
Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers. There we go. Yeah.
Come on.
I don't don't have time for Steve Rogers. I'm worried
He's
about
kind
my.
of a diva, isn't he? Like, don't you guys, you
No,
know?
he's not a diva.
You don't think so?
No, Tony
I'm
Stark
into
is a diva.
diva.
Tony
Yeah.
Stark is a diva. You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
See,
And
you
look,
knew that. You knew his name.
I, I'm a diva. I only know the names of
You
other
only know the
divas.
divas.
Yeah, Steve Rogers, he's not a diva. I don't care about his name.
Uh,
To hell with him. Uh,
aw.
I think maybe just to go back to your question, Rav, like I think there is some coding with DeWitt's character about him possibly being a queer character.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If anything is there already that we don't like read on it, I think maybe there's that. But again, it's like because he's an observer, maybe it's that like I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I do think that there might be if there is any of that there, it's
It's
definitely
him.
in
Yeah.
the it.
Agreed.
That's very interesting. I would have to rewatch to pull that specific reading. But
Yeah.
Because I think he's interested in the woman, but not like because he does make that comment of like, I don't know why I want you.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily believe that it's in a romantic way. I think it's like he's attracted to what she represents or what like he fascinates her, but he's not like in love with her.
They're the
don't
same
like that's
person. He sees
yes.
himself in her, and I think that, her rise to stardom, I mean, he's willing to go along with it. So, yeah, I get that. It was very strange how when she started talking about being in love with Lloyd and wanting to marry Lloyd, which I don't think she was at all, but his turn on her at that moment, because I think he knew that when if that were to happen, he loses his connection to her and to what she represents. So yeah, I didn't really pick up on anything romantic either between them, or him deciding that he's going to threaten to ruin her life unless she doesn't marry Lloyd, because I think then he loses that relationship. But yeah, I don't know that they meant for it to be a romantic thing. They certainly weren't married or anything at the end. So yeah, I get that. I could see him being, queer, but yeah, if I'm going to look at it at any point in that movie, I could see it being him. Yep.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that I had on All About Eve. Anything else that you guys wanted to bring up about this before we jump into our recommendations?
The only thing that I'll say is I loved that when I was watching this movie, and it's such a simple line, but when the dinner party's starting and she tells them to buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy night.
Iconic.
And then I saw that was like the number 9 AFI movie quote of all time. I was like, that was like, besides that in the milkshake, the delivery line of milkshake, that was my favorite line of the movie. So I was like, that's amazing. That's such an iconic line. And I, being a movie lover, I had never heard it before, or never seen this movie. So yeah, it's just all of her deliveries of most of this dialogue is just perfection.
Yeah.
So
that's a line that should be referenced a lot more, because
it really
could be
should.
used in any scenario.
In anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. I mean, I hear we're going to need a bigger boat, or you're going to need a bigger boat so often, but I never hear buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy night, and it's perfection. It can be used for so many things. Along with milkshake, and I'm going to use that so often, it's going to drive people crazy. They're going to hate me.
Another There Will Be Blood connection.
Milkshake.
I'll be able to recommend that one.
There you go.
Also in the canon, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. I hope my recommendations aren't in the canon. Whoops. I always forget about that part. You'll tell me.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think they are. We'll see.
It's so funny that you mentioned that line, because that's also one of the lines that's like often misquoted, because people are like, fasten your seatbelts, it's going to be a bumpy ride. That's what people often say.
Yeah.
And so it's like that Mandela effect in that iconic line is just great. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, like I think what makes the film work is how much of it is so is not dated. So much of
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those like magical experiences. This is legit one of my top 10 favorite films, like of all time. Like hands
Yeah.
down. Like the ending iffiness aside, like it's just you watching a good film, you're enjoying yourself, but it's also got artistry involved. Like it's just got everything that you want from
Yeah. Yeah.
a great film. And but
Yeah.
also like I was just thinking, like, this is an aside, but also I don't know if you picked it up, but mm, play that Margot is in is called Aged in Wood.
Aged in Wood. Yeah.
I'm just like, so it's like little
On the nose.
subtleties, like just, but then
Yeah.
then you're just like, okay, this is a little bit, this is
Yeah.
not so subtle, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a special form, really, it
Yeah.
is.
I
It
can
is.
see how it's top 10. With this show, obviously we want to be celebrating the most essential movies. But a lot of times I'm watching movies for the first time that I haven't seen before. And I'm not going to say which movies, but sometimes in doing the show, it is a struggle where there is a movie that's in the canon and I either watch it for the first time or I've seen it before and it's not something that I really
You
enjoy.
just don't connect with it. Yeah.
And talking
Mm,
about it is kind of difficult, especially talking about it in a glowing light as something that is essential is hard.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
I I love the shit out of this movie. This was
Yeah.
like so much fun, awesome movie, really easy to talk about. Obviously, really easy to talk with you guys about it. Such great insight that both of you brought. So this has been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
mm,
Great movie.
I
yeah,
say we do some recs and then get out of here.
Yeah.
I think for
cool,
the order we can go Romona, Thomas, Raff,
cool.
if that works.
Yep.
Ramona's pulling up her list.
I always like going first because I'm always afraid someone's going to have what I
And
have.
you always steal mine, or you always steal Jacob's. You guys aren't allowed to be on episodes together because you guys just have the same recommendations every time.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Great
think I'm
minds.
pretty happy about mine, so I'm hoping that no one else has it. But if you do, I go first, so it doesn't matter.
I'm also already worried about mine because I'm like, oh, mine, it's like pretty on the nose. It's not like if you
All of
think
mine
about
are
it
on the
in this way.
nose. All of mine are very like, okay. Like mine was really easy to come up with. Do you want me to go first? You want me to
Yeah,
go?
let's hear it.
Okay.
What's your
So
first
my
one?
first recommendation is actually a TV episode from The Simpsons called All
Nice.
About Lisa. This is the 20th
Nice.
episode of season 19 from 2008. It is where Lisa becomes Krusty the Clown's assistant, eventually taking over his life and his show, and she wins an award. And it's very obviously a parody of All About Eve. I love it. I think it's which is funny because I've seen this and I had not seen All About Eve. So I didn't connect that they were like the same. It was
Yeah,
a parody. I had no clue. I thought it was just a funny episode. So now that I know, this
I go
is
back
my
and rewatch it.
recommendation. All About Lisa. Um, so yeah, and of course, it being Lisa out of all the characters on The Simpsons, taking over Krusty's show and you know, taking over his life is hilarious to me. So that's my first
Yeah,
recommendation. If you guys want a funny 30-minute parody of this movie, watch All About Lisa.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So my first recommendation, and it's one that I worry might be in the canon, so I really hope that it's not. But if not, I've got to pivot. So
Okay.
it's my first recommendation is Birdman,
Okay. Good.
or
Nice.
That's a
or
good
the
one.
or the unexpected virtue of ignorance.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in the
Because
canon, but
pardon?
I don't think it's in the canon,
I
so
don't think it
you're
is.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet,
Yeah, I
anyway.
don't think so. Yeah. But I was particularly, it was really because of one scene, and it's the scene that Regan Thompson, which is Michael Keaton's character, has with the theater critic, Tabitha
Mm.
Dickinson.
Mhm.
Um, he accuses critics of being lazy, malicious, and soulless informers who risk nothing compared to artists. Um, and so I just when DeWitt in all of his like villainry, quote unquote, is like, to what extent like are critics like the villains because they we assess, but we don't do the work ourselves, you know.
Right.
And so I think that gives like a really interesting question. And I think Birdman deals with it in a very interesting way. All About Eve less so, because that's not the
Right.
point of it. But yeah, Birdman, really good time, really well written. Also won Best Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a movie about the theater.
the
Theater.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had
Great
it as a
recommendation.
potential. There is, I feel like, a growing community online of folks who think that Inarritu is a full hack and don't like Birdman. I haven't seen it in a couple years. I remember really liking it. I want to rewatch it to see if I agree with those folks, many of whom are people who I tend to agree with their movie takes, or if I still dig it. Some people think that like the one take thing is too gimmicky. I think it works for that
I love
particular
the one take.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that recommendation.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Okay, I think I'm gonna get my obvious one out of the way first. I think a movie that is very heavily influenced by All About Eve. I think even the screenwriter said, like, yeah, I was fully pulling from All About Eve while watching this. But another movie about someone who comes into a place and is very competitive and maybe a little malicious in how it is that they're manipulating a situation in order to put themselves on top. I'm recommending Yorgos Lanthimos' The Favorite.
Damn it,
Is
Raph.
that one of yours?
Yes. All right. Keep talking so I can find his third. Dang it. I knew as
no,
soon as we started talking, I was like, here it goes.
here it goes.
Got it. All right.
That's tough
Go ahead.
because I have a list of 8, so I could have pivoted if you.
No, go
had
ahead. I
recommended
got
that.
this. I got
But,
this.
I can give you one of mine if you want.
No. Go.
All right.
Tell us why you decided on that one.
So that's the first
That's
one.
it.
The Favorite. That's it.
Okay. Damn it. All right. I'll give you my other one and then I'll look for
And
my
then,
third.
yeah, we'll see about the third.
Okay. So my second is female rivalry. But it's also very dark comedy fantasy rivalry. And I love this movie. I watched this movie when I was young, and if it's on, I'll still watch it. I think it's brilliant. I am going with 1992's Death Becomes Her with Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn and Bruce Willis. Magical potion. Then they start, fighting over the same man, immortality, dealing with the nasty effects of immortality. It's hilarious, it's ridiculous, and it's brilliant. I love this movie. Robert Zemeckis, man, back when he made really good movies.
One of his last good
So I'm going to
movies.
go with Death Becomes Her. I don't think that this is a movie that I'll ever get sick of. So that's one of mine.
Nice.
That's
Yes.
great. That's a
Great
great
recommendation.
recommendation. So for my number 2, I'm recommending a series. Also two queens in the entertainment industry trying to get by, but also like really having the time of their lives at the same time. So my recommendation is for the series Hacks.
Nice.
I've been wanting to watch
Oh.
Hacks, and I have not. I've heard so many good things.
I had that on my list, but because I've never watched it, I would have felt weird recommending it. So I'm happy that you did. But yeah, it's by all accounts, it's a great show.
Yeah, I mean, so an aging comedian sort of like realizes her star is dying, and so an up and coming writer sort of comes to assist her in writing new jokes, but it's kind of like it's really good because she's very politically correct and this aging comedian is not, and so there's a lot of banter between them, but yeah, it's like this rivalry, but at the same time like this very special bond at the same time. It's just, I'm so sad that season 5 is the end, but that's where it needs to end.
I love it when shows know when to stop.
Yeah, it's so good. And so I'm watching season 5, but at the same time rewatching season 1. That's how much I'm like enjoying it. So
nice.
I'm gonna watch this show.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
meaning to check it out for a while. That's a great recommendation. Um, okay, I'm gonna go with my fun one for. Eh, yeah, I'll do my fun one now, and then my boring one third. So obviously thinking about this movie as something for the divas, and it's a bit, obviously Eve is someone who's very obsessed with the Margot character. So I'm thinking, what's something that's about divas or featuring divas that uh, is about obsession? And obviously, my mind goes to the Mariah Carey song "Obsessed," which isn't my favorite Mariah Carey song, nor is it my
No,
favorite Mariah Carey album. But that felt like a good opportunity to recommend
a song.
an album that I think has probably my two favorite Mariah Carey songs. Maybe not her deepest album, but I'm gonna recommend "Daydream" from 1995
I love
because
Daydream.
"Always Be My Baby" is
Yes,
an all-time track. That song is so good.
that's my
Um,
favorite Mariah album is
we,
Daydream. I love it. Yeah.
so we had to sprinkle in, uh, one of our top divas of all time
Oh
for
yeah, she's
top
a
Yeah,
diva
that
diva.
movie.
makes sense.
Yeah,
I love it. That's amazing. It's such a good album.
Cool.
great album. I was listening to a lot of Mariah Carey this morning, getting
I
ready
was
for
obsessed with "Always Be My Baby" when that came out.
such a good song.
That whole album is amazing. Okay, I could go on and on about that album. Now I want to
I
listen
was
to it.
thinking "The Emancipation of Mimi," which is probably her deepest album, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, "Daydream" just does it for me.
Daydream. Man, I go all the way back to Music Box. That was my first Mariah CD I ever got. Actually, I
That has
think I might have
been
got the
years.
cassette. That's how old I am.
I don't think
Crap.
Butterfly either.
I think I got it for Christmas, actually.
Yeah,
That was a great album.
she's got
Anyway,
heaters, absolute heaters.
yeah, so many good things.
I just
Well, I'm
like
glad you
whenever Christmas rolls around, like I can't stand that song. And so like I think I'm just like
block it from your.
I break out in hives. So I'm just like so yeah,
It's
it's
unfortunate
really
that
difficult.
that
That's what
song.
she's known as now. Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
song has
exactly.
ruined the rest of Mariah Carey for people, which really sucks. And I've been able to avoid that song the last few Christmases. So I've recently been like rediscovering other great Mariah Carey songs and remembering,
Mm.
like, oh yeah, she is so much more than just the annoying Christmas song. But
Yeah,
also
Yeah.
that
and
song
she's
is a
really
banger.
leaned. She
That
really
song is
leaned
played
into it too, which is a shame.
that song is played all the time because like when it's not played all the time, like if you just hear it like once a Christmas season, you're like, oh yeah, this is an absolute heater of a track. But it's just when you hear it every day,
Yeah.
hour after
Work
hour.
retail at Christmas,
Oof.
Yeah,
and you want to
Yeah.
yeah,
shoot your
that'll ruin that song for you. But if you
it.
just hear it a few times, you remember why people love it so much
Yeah,
and
and
why,
just don't listen to it for a while. My daughter is someone who gets into phases where she has to listen to the same, and then now she's got headphones, so I don't have to listen. But it used to be in the car, I'd be like, "Mom, play it." I'd have to play that fucking song all Christmas. But yeah, Daydream is a great album. Her cover of Open Arms is near perfection. Man, One Sweet Day, Underneath the Stars. Oh, I love that album. It's so good. I'm gonna be listening to this tomorrow after I drop the girls off at school. I'll be
Yeah.
driving home singing. So my last that I just found, which I should know better. I need to have like 5 or 6 listed just in case. But I'm gonna go with more female rivalry because it's on point. But I'm gonna go with 2010's Black Swan with Natalie Portman and Mila
Mm.
Kunis.
Might
Just,
be in the canon now.
you got the art performance. Both of them. Is that in the fucking canon?
It is in the canon because I think I'm on that episode.
Fuck me, man. God damn it. Just bleep this all out. God. Okay, I'm gonna say I've mentioned this movie like 3 times during this. I'll go with Single White Female. There you
Yes.
go. Single White Female. There is a psychological thriller for you. What, Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda? Crazy bitches be crazy in this one. There's no justification for any of it. There's no reasonable ambition. It's just crazy. So if you want something nuts, God damn it, Black Swan, you go with Single White Female, 1992. Great movie. There you go.
Wait,
You did it.
where I was thinking of another
Don't
film.
say it's in the
I'm
canon.
I don't think it's no.
No, it's not.
Okay, good.
I should have just
I'll
given
be more
you a
prepared next time. Gosh, bless it. Should have known better. Go ahead, Thomas.
So my fun pick is a song as well. Well,
Nice.
and it's one that's been played too much probably as well. But I'm gonna go for it and lean into it anyway. And that's The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should be in the canon, if you ask me. It's brilliant.
Very on the
Sabrina
money.
Carpenter, Taylor Swift, love it.
Mm.
Yes.
And
Which
it
album is
just
that
like,
off of?
pardon?
Which album is that off of?
The Life of a
That's
Showgirl.
The Life of a Showgirl's the album, and it's the last
The
song
Life
on
of
the
a
album
Showgirl.
as well.
Yeah, it's the last track.
Yeah.
So good.
And
I
it's
just
just
feel
like,
myself to not be a Swiftie.
yeah, Swiftie through and through.
Big Swiftie. Yes.
Ramona, what is your era?
Tortured Poets. You know, Folklore was it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tortured Poets came out, and I was like, oh, fuck, this album is amazing. And then I went back to Folklore. I was like, it's still Folklore. But my Apple Music replay since Tortured Poets come out, every single month has been Tortured Poets as my album, except for when Life of a Showgirl came out in October. That was the only month so far that it hasn't been Tortured Poets. And then I went right back to Tortured Poets. It's to me, that's her like masterpiece of an album. And I don't know that it'll be topped, but I love all of her albums. Like, I don't have a least favorite. You know what I mean? Like, I'll listen to anything. Yeah, I'm ridiculous. Like, it's Taylor Swift all the time, and then maybe occasionally another song will pop in there that I'll listen to. But I'm like, no, and I go back to Taylor. So yeah, Life of Showgirl is brilliant. It's really good. That's a good recommendation for this one.
It's just like I realized, like, listening to it a couple of months back, where I was just like, this is like, I just love the song, the narrative quality to it, and just the fact that it's her with Sabrina Carpenter, and just like almost different generations. I mean, I know they young, but they are different generations, and like handing on the baton. This is a more like amicable handing of the baton, I think.
Oh, for sure. But it's a great story. It's a great story in the song. And I think a lot of people had, listening to it, a lot of people got some Britney Spears kind of vibes, from Britney to Taylor and then so on. And Clara Bow, I think too, would have been a great song, the entertainment industry just cycling through all of these female stars and just like, okay, you're done. We got this new young thing now that we're excited about, and then they're done. And, so yeah, Life of Showgirl it's a really good recommendation. I should have thought of that. What was I thinking? Yeah.
You were thinking of your favorite.
Yeah.
Thomas, what's your era?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that was a go between. But I actually, and then I was like, maybe it's recency bias, but I actually really love the album Life of a Showgirl, because she's just like reached the stage where it's like she's so big that she can do whatever. And that's what she's chosen to do on this album. It's just like, these are a bunch of thoughts that I have. I'm going to write them down. Some of you are going to hate them. I don't care if you hate them. I just love that for her. And I'm like, that's, and I mean, like Elizabeth Taylor, it's just like,
great song.
It's right in this, what we've been talking about as well. So,
Elizabeth Taylor's a great song.
Another great diva.
Exactly.
Is Tortured Poet, is that the one right before?
Yeah, Tortured Poets Department came out 2024, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before that, like I said, it was Folklore was my favorite, but Tortured Poets is just 31 songs of pure poetry, if you ask me. So I just fucking love it. Yeah, love it.
So I revealed myself to not be a Swiftie, but if I were to pick an era, it would be whichever. I always get the year wrong, but the album with blank space, because
1989.
That is the one.
That's a diva album, Raph. I can see why you would like it.
I love blank space, and
that's a diva song.
Unfortunately, nothing else from Taylor really does it for me. But like that song is like,
you know why?
In my Spotify top 100.
You know why nothing else from Taylor does it for you? Because you have to listen to the full album. When you
Yeah,
listen to the radio hits, they're never her
Yeah.
best music.
she has too.
Never. I think Blank Space, I think 1989 was probably the era where she released the songs that were the best on those albums,
Hmm.
on that album. But the rest of her discography is, you hear, Shake It Off, and you hear We Are Never Getting Back Together, and you hear, Ready For It from Reputation. But if you listen to the full album, her best music is the music she never puts on the radio. I swear. Like, 'cause I
Yeah.
was not a Swiftie when 1989 came out, and then I slowly started getting into her between 1989 and Reputation, and then it was like a full-blown obsession / mental illness for me. So I will tell you,
Okay.
listen to the full album, not 1989, but listen to like Folklore, listen to Tortured Poets, listen to Midnights is a fantastic pop diva album, I swear. Midnights is amazing. So yeah, I mean, her best music is not going to be heard on the radio. I
The funny
promise.
thing is, the way I listen to music, and we're totally off the tracks now, but the way that I typically listen to music is I like to listen to full albums and like experience music that
Yeah.
way. I'm not so much just like radio
Here's
hits,
the song, there's the song. Yeah.
song here and there. I really do like to experience a full album.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Taylor Swift has never been something that's like, she's never like, I've never wanted to sit down and listen to a full Taylor Swift album. Maybe I would enjoy it if I did.
You would.
But
I guarantee it.
yeah, you think I'm a Swiftie just waiting?
You're
waiting to
Swiftie in
happen.
waiting.
Yeah.
They say, the Swifties will tell you, the reason you don't like Taylor Swift right now is because you haven't needed her. But when you
Interesting.
need her, she's got a song. Got a song for you.
All right.
I guarantee it. I've had so many friends who are like, I like Shaking Off. And then I'm like, listen to the fucking album. And then they'll like text me, be like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. I'm like, I told you. All it takes is just listening to the whole thing, and you're going to find something that will connect you. And then it'll be nonstop from there.
I gotta reach out to my girl. I gotta see
it.
what's going on.
Do it.
Awesome.
Taylor all the way, baby.
That was okay, Thomas. I don't know how I'm gonna follow that up because
yeah, that's been a while. Oh, I forgot. We have one more, don't we?
Yeah. I'm not gonna have something that's gonna be as interesting as Taylor Swift.
Yep.
But my third recommendation is a Netflix movie that came out a couple of years ago. The connection to this is it's about the older brother of the director of All About Eve, Herman Mankiewicz.
Mank.
About the writing of Citizen Kane.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nice.
Could have saved that recommendation for the Citizen Kane episode of the Canon, but that seemed too on the nose. So we'll spend that recommendation here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Again, not as fun as T Swift, but
to each their own.
We do what we can. Yeah, we got a few divas in. We got Mariah Carey, we got T Swift, we got Britney Spears mentioned. So we're good.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun. Thank you both again for joining. Screenagers, you can obviously check out the writings of both Thomas and Romona on ScreenAge Wasteland. A lot of great reviews. Thomas has been doing a lot of recent 2026 reviews for the website this year. Ramona's got Rom-Com Rewind Tuesdays coming at you, where there's always great stuff there. You can obviously catch both of them on other episodes of the Canon. And I think both of you guys can be found on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Yep.
Handles, if folks are interested or so inclined.
So mine is just my name and surname. That's Riest, which is like priest without the P.
That's awesome.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
I don't think I changed mine. Mine is It Was Like Magic, which is a quote from my favorite rom-com. So easy to find me there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Both great follows. Yeah, you can obviously, we'll catch both of these folks on other episodes of the Canon. We'll probably be able to find both of these folks also on some Wasteland After Dark episodes. Ton of fun stuff happening over there. Yeah, so follow us along on YouTube at Saw Podcast or at ScreenAge Podcast. I should know what the handle is. But
Let's type in ScreenAge Wasteland. You'll find us.
Type in ScreenAge Wasteland. You'll find us. You can catch all episodes of the Canon there. You can find episodes of Wasteland After Dark. You can find Jacob's pole position there. You can find there's something else that I'm missing. Oh, Jacob's
Weekend Wrap.
Fallout or Weekend Wrap. You can follow us on the website proper. Again, there are too many things to plug.
So
you
many.
can also check out the ScreenAge Wasteland exclusives YouTube page. Has great interviews. Val and Jacob have been doing a lot of great stuff over there. You can also check out Dahlgren's Kung Fu Cinema / ScreenAge Wasteland Reviews YouTube page, where he's doing a lot of cool stuff over there. All these pages are connected.
So many things.
A lot of great stuff. Yeah. Obviously, you can check out the website proper. Ton of great reviews, lists, questions of the day, weekend fallout, all that good stuff. And you can find new episodes of the Canon on both YouTube and the website proper, as well as whatever platform it might be that you're listening to us on. It might be that YouTube page, or it might be Apple, it might be Spotify, it might be Amazon, it might be Google Play, but we're there. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Leave us a 5-star review. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell whoever. we're having a good time over here. We want you to join.
Yeah.
We will be back next week with another essential movie. We hope to see you there, ScreenAgers. And as always, in the meantime, we will catch all of you lovely folks in the wasteland.